was born in a thunderstorm.
Hey everyone, it has been a long time since I've done an update. I think my last update was like December, like 6 months, 5 months, could be 4 months, I don't know. Anyway, it has been 9 months on testosterone for me, and um, it is March 28th. Um, Time is flying by. I thought originally I was not gonna ever have a problem with doing update videos and staying on track of like keeping folks updated and like not having enough time to do all that. But I was wrong. Life gets busy, and so sorry. Oops. Anyways, so it's March, almost April, 9 months on T. Lots of changes. Uh, I will try to do a comparison of my voice. I'm not exactly sure how much has changed since my last update video, but people say it's changed. I don't hear it because I hear my voice every day, so I guess I probably don't pick up on the nuances, but people say it has, or maybe it's just evened out. I don't know. But anyway,
Other than like physical changes, obviously those videos will come later about an important issue that I don't think that we talk about enough, and that's
full months on T from June 23rd of when I started my first T shot. So other things is facial hair is starting to come in. I just went. It's about 2.5 months ago. I moved and started a new job up in New Hampshire, and I'm finally kind of got more of my feet under me from that transition. I need to move away from that, and well, I know I need to move away from that, and I haven't pressed them on it. Other things that have been changing or continuously happening is my facial hair is pretty it's growing in pretty strong and regularly now. I shave quite a bit or trim my beard, keep it kind of close, because I'm trying to grow it in so it like doesn't look patchy or anything. So it's pretty like proportionate around my on both sides, and like it's not like super patchy, but I'm keeping it close in hopes that like it'll grow in and won't like pretty consistently. The only place that's kind of like still patchy is like right here, but I still kind of keep it close because I don't know, when it gets long it looks, I think it kind of looks shitty, or it looks like unkept or whatever. I don't know. Anyway, sometimes I like to grow it out, and then sometimes I get really sick of it and then take it off, and then I don't know, and then it gets itchy, and then it's really interesting kind of trying to get used to the the management of all of it, and like shaving techniques and how not to like irritate your skin and all of that, and learning the nuances of shaving has been interesting when no one tells you how to do it. So that's fun, but it is kind of fun to be growing it in and growing it in pretty fast. Comparatively speaking, it did definitely came in faster than some other guys, which was definitely a little bit of a shock, I guess, and something I had to get used to. because I didn't expect it. In addition to the facial hair, I would say that my hair on the rest of my body has followed suit, which is definitely taken some getting used to. I'm not gonna show it just because of my own body stuff and being comfortable with myself, but I have plenty of stomach hair, and not just a little happy trail. It's like my whole stomach hair, or whole stomach is all hair, which is interesting. My legs are super hairy, so it's just a lot to get used to, and it happened really fast. So I think I just wasn't prepared for. I mean, you never know like what you're gonna get in terms of like your changes, and also like the level in which it's going to happen, and then the time frame or how fast it's going to happen. So I guess you have an idea of what's going to happen in your head, and then when it happens differently, it's definitely something to get used to. And you have to adjust your expectations and be okay with what happens, and that it's different from what your expectations were originally. So there's a lot of like figuring out how you feel about things, and being honest with yourself, and knowing that you're not always going to be happy with the results of something, and that that's okay, and that it's a non-linear path, and that you can take steps forward and steps back to really figure out what works for you. So I think the biggest lesson that I've learned is that you don't just have to be happy with what happens. Like you can be kind of not happy with how things kind of transpire or unfold. So I think I've talked about this before, how we often think that like once you start T or start a transition, it's a linear process, and then all of a sudden these things are supposed to in a way kind of fix or alleviate all these other issues, but these issues still happen. Dysphoria still happens. I actually feel like my dysphoria has gotten worse as I've started T, and I have progressed on T, as I still bind every single day, and I have a large chest, and so the discrepancy between how I'm presenting in a more masculine way while also having my chest still is becoming a harder thing to deal with every day. And so I think my dysphoria is kind of heightened in a way. In that same vein, I think I'm also experiencing a lot of issues in regards to feeling defeated, that I don't have access to the medical care that I need to continue to transition in the way that I need to for my own story. And I think that I'm just feeling really defeated, and I'm very happy with a lot of things, and I don't want to like send the message that I'm not. But I'm also, finding it challenging and feeling defeated in a lot of ways, and feel like it's okay to express that while also feeling good about a lot of things. Like those things can exist at the same time. So I think along with the other pieces around my transition and what's best for me is that I am following a bit of a linear normative story in terms of my narrative path of transition, and I want to mention that not everybody follows that path. Transition means a lot of different things to a lot of different people, and I want to say that my transition really just means me becoming more of myself. So whatever that means, whether that means I take steps forward or take steps back, that's part of my transition. It doesn't mean that I do this and then I become this. It means that I'm taking steps and working on myself to become more of who I am, and a better version of myself, and authentically show up in the world. So for me, I've been on tea now for 9 months, and I really like a lot of the things that tea has brought into my life. I think tea has brought a lot of challenges into my life as well. I still have the swelling, I still have the edema. It's actually been more like painful and achy lately, like my body and like my joints. I don't know if I'm experiencing that because of how much I bind and the length that now that I've had to bind. But I'm going to talk to my doctor. I have an appointment in April. I'm thinking that maybe it's some type of allergic reaction now. There's a chance that maybe it might be an allergic reaction to, could be the tea in general, which absolutely petrifies me. It could be what the tea is suspended in, because this tea is suspended, that's a fun word to say, suspended in oil to be able to be injected into your muscle or into your skin or whatever. And so there's different types of oils that they suspend the tea into. So it could be that. So I'm going to ask my doctor if I can try different types of tea, because there's a couple different ones that you can try, as well as if there's a different oil that they could use to suspend it in. And I'm hoping that it is actually the oil and not tea itself. And then that will rectify the issue. I'm wondering if I just don't know what it is, and I would really like to get to the bottom of it, because it's just uncomfortable all the time. It's there all the time. I feel like shit all the time, and it scares me. I am scared that I'm gonna feel like this for the rest of my life, to be able to be who I am, and present how I need to authentically. So that's been really weighing on me a lot, and I think like a lot of times I like just like put it to the back of my head, and I'm just like, yeah, it's hard, but like whatever, I can get through it, and like I'll figure it out. But I think when I stop to think about it a little bit more and like deconstruct it, it is a lot, and it is constantly in the way that I move through the world. So like I just, it's taxing, and I need to like kind of admit that and be okay with admitting that. Do feel an expectation to get it all right, and to not show that it's difficult, or like unwavering ability to handle it all, because I'm an example for a lot of people, and I feel like I need to be strong, and I know that there's strength in showing people that it's an unwavering process and it's hard. So there's a lot of conflicting feelings around that, but I also feel like there's a lot of pressure to be sure around a lot of like my identities in this process, and to not show any weakness and vulnerability in it. And I think that's really dangerous, because I think it allows people to or keeps people from talking about how they truly feel about something, and makes people have to have a false narrative of things are just perfect, and when that's not the reality. And like, truth is, I'm not sure. I'm not sure about any of this. And I think if people were sure about everything in their lives, like, we would live very different lives. Um, and I know that absolutely 100% that like every day I wake up and try to do what's best for me to live authentically as myself. And I know that what I'm doing is doing that. But I don't want to pretend that like it's not hard or it's not confusing or it's not conflicting at times. Like I think that people don't talk about that enough, and I don't know that I'm really conveying what I'm trying to say very succinctly, but I think that people don't talk enough about the nuances of feelings around and the complexities around being sure and being okay in this process of discovering yourself and having to redefine yourself constantly every single day and relearn things and to function as an adult. So I don't know. It's a lot, and I would love to see more of a conversation in the trans community about that and less about look at me, I started to transition and I took testosterone, or I take testosterone. I had surgery, and I'm miraculously fine now. I think that narrative is dangerous and the only one that's perpetuated, and I think it is absolutely people's story, and it needs to be shared and celebrated, but it should not be the only one. That's I guess what I'm trying to say. And then it's okay if your story is different, and that should be celebrated as well. So, in addition to some of the other transition stuff, hey, so I am finishing on my computer because I ran out of space on my phone. It is super shitty quality, but oh well. So anyway, I wanted to give an update on kind of where I'm at with next steps in my transition. I'm kind of at a holding pattern because of resources and access to good coverage in terms of healthcare. I work for a institution that does not provide healthcare coverage for trans issues or trans healthcare, and so I am already going into debt paying for the stuff that I already have access to. And so some of it's covered, some of it isn't. So the stuff that I am already doing or have access to, I'm already paying on some of that, and so I cannot move forward with other stuff out of my own pocket. So I am in the process of thinking about other ways to gain access to the things that I do need. I'm kind of feeling a little bit under the gun because I'm experiencing some things that concern me. Some of those things are I'm experiencing a lot of back pain and a lot of issues with my arms recently due to binding a lot. Well, binding and not binding a lot or more than I should be, but like just having to bind normally or whatever. So it's really, really frustrating and it hurts. And it's it's really, it's really, really, really really frustrating. So I'm sorry I like space out when I talk about it, because it's just really on my mind a lot right now, and it's hard for me to kind of like focus. So anyway, my company or my institution does not provide coverage and for any gender confirming or trans healthcare in regards to confirming surgeries or anything in that nature. And it is a company or institution that self-selects into what program it chooses through a provider that I know offers trans health care. So that's the frustrating part, is that it's the actual institution and not the provider that is the issue. And when I have reached out to people to try to make this a systemic change, which I am the person that would make the systemic change anyway, or initiate these changes, I have been met with no response. So that's really frustrating. And so I feel like I am under a timetable of, one, physically, like how long can I have this take a toll on my body in this way, in terms of like physically, like my arms are like my arms will go numb during the day, so like how long can I sustain that, in addition to like my dysphoria as I transition and become more masculine presenting is getting worse and worse. So how long can I sustain that as well without going through top surgery? So I think these are all things that are on my mind. I know that speaking with my doctor, I will have to go through a hysterectomy within a certain amount of time that I'm on T for previous health conditions that I've discussed in other videos, I think. So I'm also under the gun with that. So it's about like, I'm in a position right now of having to publicly out myself even more and crowdsource for money through a GoFundMe and rely on other people to help me fund this, which is kind of, so many trans folks do it, and it's an amazing way to get money, but it's so hard for me to wrap my mind around asking other people to help me do this. And I just might have to put myself in that position, because it's getting down to a point where I just don't know that I can sustain this anymore. The other choice is like to leave my employment, and I can't do that. I rely on the healthcare that I do have for the other things that the medical healthcare that I do have for the other things that I have. So like I can't not be employed. Like I could go and search for an employment that has confirming healthcare, but I always take the risk that it may not happen, or it may be some and not all, and it just, there's so many varieties, and you could be taking a huge risk. And I'm in the job that I've worked like for the last 8 to 9 years for. Like I've worked my ass off, centered my career, and put aside my entire rest of my life for this job and to be where I am. So to think about that is really, really hard. It petrifies me. But I'm hoping that, I can make the systemic change. in this company, not only for myself, but for other people who need it, because I know there are others that need it, but I don't know that it's going to be in enough time for me. I'm really contemplating figuring out how to raise the money. I don't make enough money on my own with all the bills that I currently have and school loan debt and all of that, to be able to pay for it outright myself. If I did, I would. I would never just want to take money from people. It's coming from the background that I do, in a working class, blue collar, socioeconomic status. It is incredibly hard to even fathom this as a possibility. But I don't know. I haven't really processed this out loud with a lot of people. So you're hearing it, kind of first. And it's really hard to talk about. It's really hard to talk about, and we don't talk about it enough. So I don't know. We'll see. All I know is that I'm feeling really stressed, and I'm feeling really defeated, and I think it's really hard to reach out and ask for support and help, and even when you do, I think, even if it's not in the perfect way, I think you should still do it. I think that people are going to still care. I encourage you to figure out how to ask for that help and how to ask for what you do need. Maybe you don't know what you need, and that's okay. But I think being honest with yourself and what's going on for you is a really good place to start. And then maybe saying it out loud, and then saying it out loud in front of other people, even if it's not the popular narrative. Yeah. So I hope that this is not a complete bummer of an update, but it is, a lot of good things are happening too. I don't want to let the bad overshadow the good. An update that's really amazing is that, and I don't want to put too much of my life on blast, more than I already do, but I've met somebody and have someone in my life that is unconditionally there for me. I now know what love means. It took me about 28, almost 29 years to really feel and know what that means. I'm extraordinarily lucky to have this person come into my life. It's the first time I feel like someone's ever really seen me for me and has celebrated how I show up in the world. It's a beautiful thing, and when I found myself kind of giving up hope around finding that, it kind of came into my life really unexpectedly, and so I just feel so fortunate. I feel like a lot of the things that I'm saying are kind of cliche, but I am so unbelievably happy to have somebody who when I think about them, I am just I know it's a forever feeling, and it's a feeling of unconditional unwavering positivity and support that will and has continued to uplift me and celebrate who I am. And I just hope that I can bring that into their life as well. So that's really really exciting for me, and I'm really happy. So I thought that I would share that with you all. I will try to be much better and do a 10-month update, but there are no promises because the month of April is absolutely out of this world busy. So we'll see what happens, but please let me know if you need anything or need help or need to be connected to resources. I'm always happy to do that. Even if I don't respond right away, know that I will. Thanks for following my story and following my process and supporting me. So I'll see y'all soon.